after I took the test the fourth time, I studied really, really hard, and I just knew I passed. Like I knew it. I thought I had it, and when I didn't pass, I was like, okay, I have to do something different. The test wasn't hard at all. I just didn't have the right material to study for it. At this point, I don't have anything to lose. I'm just going to keep failing. Why not invest the money in myself now? I'm going to make this money back and more as soon as I pass this test, so it's worth it.
Bonjour guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm interviewing Juanica. She recently passed her FE exam after taking it 5 times. And in this video, she's going to share with us her FE experience. Juanica, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this. So the first time we talked over the phone, I think it was either after you purchased the course or before, I don't remember, but I do remember that you mentioned that you started college in 2008 and you didn't graduate till 2018. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Okay. I started college in 2008. I actually graduated high school a year early, so I started college right at 17. I think I made 17 like 3 months before I started college, and I think I went to school, didn't do well in the beginning. Mainly, I think just not being prepared. It was a drastic change from high school to college, and I barely had to study in high school. And when I got to college, it was like, okay, no, I need to change my habits, and it was just hard for me to adjust. So I went to school. First, my major was chemical engineering. I think I stuck with that major for maybe 3 years, and then I realized that I wasn't being successful in it, and it wasn't for me. So then I changed to industrial engineering because I was trying to find something where I wouldn't lose a lot of my hours. I did that for 2 semesters, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is not for me. I still was struggling, and then I decided, okay, I'm just not going to go to school. So I stopped going to school, and I think I sat out of school for maybe a year. I think I sat out for a year, um, and I went to a community college and started back there. And then I took some online classes. I had in the process of me not going to school, I got a job and I started working. So I was working full time, and then I went back to school online and took some classes at a community college. And during that, I realized, okay, I do want to go back to school. And the job I was currently working at, my boss was a civil engineer, and she was like, maybe you should do civil engineering. I was like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I just want to go back and do the industrial and just finish with that. Then over time, I ended up switching and doing civil engineering. And I went back to school in May of 2015 in civil engineering. That's when I went back for that, and then I graduated in May of 2018. No, I'm sorry, I went back in January of 2015. Mm-hmm. And then I graduated in May of 2018, and I went back to civil engineering. I went back part-time for maybe almost 2 years, three or four semesters. I was taking 6 to 9 hours, just what I could while I worked full-time. And then my last 2 semesters, I was full-time. I think I took 14 hours the semester before graduation, and I took 18 hours the semester I graduated. And I worked full-time the entire time.
Wow. Wow, yeah. That sounds really intense, especially the last year. Yes. So how did you find civil engineering when you switched? Did you like it? I mean, you graduated, so I assume you liked it.
Actually, I was like, I looked at it. I was like, okay, well, the school I went to, they didn't have industrial engineering. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to find something. And then because I was working in like the civil field, I actually enjoyed the work that I did. So I was like, well, I'll give this a try. And then the first civil class I took, I took statics when I was doing industrial, but I think everybody has to take statics. That was like a general class for everybody. But like mechanics of material and structural analysis, those are like my first civil, I guess, classes, where I saw like, okay, this is what civil engineering is about. And actually, I got a C in both of those classes. My first intro back into it, I got a C. But after that, I got all A's and B's into all my other classes. But just being reintroduced to it, and I liked it, and I was liking where it was going. And what really made me fall in love with civil engineering was my structural engineering classes, where I got to do structures and like build things and see how things were built. And that's when I was like, okay, this is for me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and I think you struggled a little bit with the first classes, structural analysis, because it's been a while since you took statics.
Yes.
When you were in this industrial.
Yeah, because I took statics in 2010, and I didn't structures of 2015.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time. And then fast forward today,
Mm-hmm.
you were able to, of course, obviously pass your FE exam. Did you struggle with statics a little bit? Did you have a hard time
Yes,
remembering?
I struggled with statics a lot. So um, after I took the test the fourth time, I studied really, really hard, and I just knew I passed. Like I knew it. I thought I had it, and when I didn't pass, I was like, okay, I have to do something different. And I had been I used your videos off YouTube initially to study, and I saw like I think the first like testimonial video I saw was a guy. I think I can't remember his name. I think
Tushar?
what's his name?
Was it Tushar?
Yes, that
Okay.
was the first one I watched, and I saw he said he had took it like 3 times and he passed it on the fourth try when he took your class. Then I saw, I think his name was George or Greg, the one who had been out of school for like 15 years.
Jeff?
Jeff. I saw his video and I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, I think I need to take her class. And then I saw Coy's video,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, I'm signing up for the class. At this point, what do I have to lose? I can't. I haven't been able to pass it by myself. So I signed up for your course, and then I started doing it. And then I did the whole math section. And when I think I can't remember the order I did it, but when I got to statics, I looked at the first review question. I was like, yeah, I can't answer none of this. So I was
Wow.
like, I need the status class. So that's when I stopped the review class, purchased the status course, and I completed the whole status course before I even went back to the review class. And then I attempted the statics review questions after I completed the status course, and that's how I was able to conquer statics. But that class was godsend.
Yeah. Yeah, because like it's been 10 years since you've taken
Yes.
statics, and before you dive into mechanics of materials, dynamics, and structural analysis, structural design, you should know really well statics. And in
Yes.
the FE exam, you get a lot of questions in statics, like about 8 to 10. So that's a huge portion of the exam.
Yes, because actually I went back and like looked up my little breakdown that they give you, and on every exam, even I improved in everything, and I got the exact same score in statics every time except for one. I went up like 0.2, but it was the same. Like I wasn't showing any improvement in that section at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the questions. Now, why did you decide to take the FE? Was it a requirement by your job?
Yes. So the job that I had when I graduated, it wasn't really a requirement, but to move up, you needed the FE. And so I wanted to get it. And then I actually left that job a year after I graduated and got another job. It didn't need the FE at all. It wasn't, nobody needed it. It wasn't really important. But I just wanted to get it. I initially tried to start studying for it in October of 2019. I was like, I'm gonna start studying. Then I studied like maybe a week and I fell off. Tried again in December, just wasn't working. And then in February, like towards the end of February of 2020, I was like, I want this test. I'm gonna pass this test. So I started like studying really hard, and I worked out a lot, like 5 days a week, and that's where my focus was, working out. Like I dedicated all my time to that. So I decided to give that up to focus on studying for the test. So I just stopped working out. I would work every day, go home, and just study for like 4 or 5 hours a day during the week after work, and then on the weekends I would study 8 to 10 hours. I would just study all day because I didn't know anybody where I was. So just working and going home. So I didn't have any distractions. So I had a lot of extra time to study. And that's what I did. I studied, started in February. My test was supposed to be, I think, in March, but then it got pushed to May with everything with the COVID, everything took place. It got pushed to May 13th. I took it then. I didn't pass it. And then I was going to wait to take it a little later, but I started looking at the dates and I couldn't find any dates like before, I think it was September. So the next date was either July or September. And I was like, I don't want to wait till September because I'm still in study mode. So I had 6 weeks from the date I looked to schedule again to study. And I was like, maybe that's too fast. But I was like, no, I can do it. So I signed up for your course. Then I signed up to take my test, and I had 6 weeks, and I made a study schedule, and I just went at it.
Yeah. That sounds like it. So did you exercise at all, or you were just studying?
No, I made a exercise 5 times in the process. I just gave it up completely. I just watched what I ate and I just studied.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of, I feel like you kind of changed your mindset a little bit. At first, you were like, yes, I want this exam, but you didn't put yourself that much pressure of actually getting this exam. So you just give it a couple tries. And then the last one, you were like, I really want this exam.
Yes.
And then you studied, you didn't do well, and then you enrolled into class, and then you kept going, and you're like, I can work out anytime. Let me just focus right now. This 6
Yes.
just gonna give it my all. And then just kind of focus on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. I just was like, I'm gonna give them. I think during the when I changed again, I think I might have studied, 5 or 6 times. I would like do it just to clear my head. Like sometimes I'm like I can't focus, so I just go and do it like one day out the week just to regroup, and then I would go get right back into it.
Yeah, because I exercise as well a lot, and sometimes I have projects and I have things to do, and I have to pause that, and that's why I actually asked you, because like when I stop working out, some days I get stuck. I am not as productive. My brain stops working, and I'm like, okay, I need to get at least my 1 hour exercise, and then I would get back to it again, and then I have like another week to just kind of power through, right? So that's why I asked you, like, if you are like someone who exercise every day, stopping that, like, you know, that probably affect you a little bit.
It was hard in the beginning because I exercised 5 to 6 days a week to 0, which was it was like, oh my gosh. But in my mind, I was like, this test means more to me than anything right now. So I'll get back to that later. I know what to do to get there. So it's worth the sacrifice right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great. Okay, now let's talk about your scheduling. So you talked about a little bit about your scheduling, but I just want to know a little bit, like, how many hours did you study per week?
20 to 30 hours a week, probably.
Wow. So
I would go to work. I would work between 9 and 12 hours a day.
Okay.
And then I would study 3 to 5 hours after work.
Wow.
So I would get off at like, depending on the day, sometimes I like, if I got out late, I probably wouldn't study more than 2 hours. But if I got off at a reasonable time, 3 to 5 hours easily. I would study from maybe 5 to 10, and then I would sleep and get up and do it again every day. And then on weekends, I would like just sleep in on Saturdays, get up whenever I decide to get up, and I would just study until I can't take it anymore. I'll study as long as I can, take a break, eat, and get back to it until I feel like I can't. Once I can't retain anything, then I'll just quit.
Yeah.
And that's what I would do.
Wow, that's awesome. So it's like you really just give yourself like 6 weeks, and you're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna like just, you know, give it all my attention, all my time, and just keep going till I can't do it anymore, and then just repeat again.
Yes.
Yeah. That's yeah. I mean, sometimes that works. And did you feel like maybe you at some point you were feeling burnout or getting overwhelmed at any point? Okay.
Actually, through that whole 6 weeks, I actually didn't study the entire 6 weeks straight because some days I just couldn't do it. I just can't study today. So I would say I'm just going to do 30 minutes and just look over I would look over like the stuff I didn't really have to solve problems. Like I look over like ethics or like, because on my last 2 attempts, I got 100% right in ethics and probability and statistics. So I was like, those 2 subjects are not subjects that I really need to study, just need to review. So I would just like look over like ethics questions or like material, like stuff that I could just read, nothing that I had to actually solve.
Okay. So it's like in your break days, you would just kind of look at the materials where you can just review. There's nothing where you actually solve problems, but you just go over concepts, you review the questions and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's like you're recharging, but at the same time, you're being a little bit productive.
Yes.
Yeah, I see. Okay. And then, so did you increase the time as the exam got closer? I mean, your studying hours is already sounds intense. so I'm assuming you probably kept it the same, but I still want to. Okay.
I kept it the same. Actually, the closer I got, I started like weaning off some because I was like, I don't want to burn out and then I can't finish. So like 3 weeks before the exam, I would still study, but I wouldn't study like all day. Like I would study I would say today is just set a time frame from this to this, because 3 weeks before the exam, I actually quit my job because my job was very demanding and like took a lot of my time. And I knew that I was going to be quitting anyway in 3 weeks because I was moving back home. Took a job in Texas and I was moving back to Louisiana, so I was quitting anyway. So I was like, I'd rather give up these 3 weeks at this job and this pay so I could focus on my test. So I just quit 3 weeks early. And then I would just say from these hours every day, I'm going to study instead of doing it all day long. I would just set a time, use that time, study for those hours. And that's what I did until up to a test.
Wow. That's actually a really smart move because, like, you know, you're going to quit anyways. Might as well just focus on the exam, have the FE exam under your belt, and this way you can get any job you want after that. So, yeah, I think that was actually like really good. And so another thing you mentioned, so at first you were working crazy hours, but then when you actually quit your job, you decreased those hours. You were trying to, so that you prevent burnout. And actually, I think Tushar did something similar to that. So the first couple of weeks he was studying like crazy intense.
Mm-hmm.
And then like as the time or as the exam got closer, he decreased that time. So I think for some people it works because then you feel like I covered so much already. Now I can just take a step back and just go slower, and I think I'll be fine for the exam. Is that how you felt?
Yes.
Okay, I see. Okay, that's great. Now let's talk about your preparation. So what material did you use?
So on time number 4, I used like the Dropbox file. I saw one. It's the same file that I had. I saw it on Reddit. Like all these questions for each session, like all these review questions. So that's what I used that time. And I felt like that wasn't really helpful because I didn't pass. So the last time I took it, for the first part of the exam, I only used your course. Like I just eliminated all the materials. Like this is all I need for the first part. So I did the status course and used your course. And then for the second part, I used your YouTube videos and I did use those questions from the Dropbox.
I see. Okay, cool. And so did you use any books at all?
No, books.
Oh.
I had a FE Lindbergh book and it was just like way too much. So I was like, nah, the questions were a lot harder. And I was like, this is not for me. So I just got rid of that and just did just videos and practice problems.
Yeah, because I think especially if somebody has been out of school for a while, I think having somebody walk you through the problems, walk you through the solution, you learn faster than actually just looking at the book. And then because you look at the book, you look at the solution and you're like, not sure what they did here. And then you're just stuck. You never know exactly what's going on. You move on to the next problem, but you still didn't get the previous problem.
Yeah.
So you just like, you're in this cycle that never ends. You always feel like you're stuck and you're not really progressing. And I think for people who are struggling with that, or for students who've been out of school for a while, I think getting a course or just watching YouTube videos, I think that's actually more effective as long as you guys try to do the problems and attempt them. Because a lot of times you have people who just sit and watch the solution, but you're not really retaining information, unless if that's you just reviewing. But you should try to attempt the problems. Now, tell us a little bit about your study technique. So, like for example, in the morning you use statics and FE bites. How did you approach those courses? How did you use them? How did you actually study for them?
So initially I made a study schedule. So you used to when I first signed up for your class, I think you had a video or something I watched, and you were saying stop trying to attack just like the whole subject of statics, like break it down because you have equilibrium forces and then the free body diagram. So what I did was I made a study schedule. First, before I took your class, I had a study schedule, and I was just like, I'm just going to study statics today, mechanics and materials. And I'm like, that's what I felt that initially because it was way too much I was trying to cover. So when I made my new schedule, I went through the FE breakdown for each subject, and I went and made my study schedule based off of that. Like, okay, this day I'm going to do these 2 sections of mechanics, and I made my schedule like that. And I used that to study. I made a calendar and I wrote it down, and I had a bunch of blank calendars printed out. So when things didn't go that way, I just would throw the other one away and redo it and start over again. So that's how I approached it. I decided to start your class. I remember being a Monday, but it was a Monday in May or June, one of them. I started your course, and I just was like, I'm gonna start from the beginning. and I wrote it down based on how you had it broke down in the sections. I did it like that per day, like derivatives and integrals. I did try to do the things that went together that I could do in the same day, and I would do that until I finished. I did that all the way up until statics, and then when I got to statics, I completely stopped. And I think it took me maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks to complete the statics course because I would do it every day. And once I completed the statics course, yeah, I think I completed the statics course in June, like towards the end of June, around Father's Day. Yeah, that's when I completed the statics course. Then I went back and started the FE course again and finished the rest of the material.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of times when people start studying with the for the FE exam, they just go like, "Oh, this week I'm going to cover math," and that's actually not going to help you to actually sit down and do math because there's so much things in
Yes.
math, and you just so like you have to be very specific, like in terms of like what you're going to study, what material to use. I always tell you guys this. This way, you automate your studying, and you can just sit and start studying right away instead of spending a whole hour of trying to find the material, trying to see what you're going to cover. By that time, you're already tired. So having a very specific schedule is really important. So when you were watching the videos and you were studying, were you taking notes? Did you try to attempt the problems before you looked at the solution?
Yeah, so what I was did, you would do the little intro of the problem. So before I would attempt any problem, I would watch the intro, pause it, try to solve it. If I if I solved it, I would move on and watch the solution, see if I did it right or wrong. If I couldn't solve it, I would just go straight to the solution and then try to make sure I understand it. And I bought like 2 5 subject notebooks and I just put everything in sections like all this go here. And I wrote it down and highlighted and wrote notes all over it to make sure and wrote where I was struggling, what I was strong in, what I needed to review again. So I went through each sections, and then after every section, I would go back and put I had a green and a yellow highlighter and put green for stuff that I got right the first time. So I knew I understood it, and then yellow for stuff that I didn't get right and I needed to review. And then I would go back and review all of that at the end before I moved on to the next section.
Wow, I really like that study technique. It's great because, like, first of all, you would write and try to make connections between problems because you would really try to, like, see how the problem was solved and, like, really walk yourself through it and, like, face those challenges. And in addition to that, you would also highlight it so that you can come back to it later and make sure you actually got it.
Yes.
That's very helpful. Did it help you to remember the questions and stuff during the exam? Did you find
It
it?
did very actually because I highlighted like questions. It was one asking I think it was something with like the line being tangent or perpendicular or something like that. But I remember you did some review questions like that. That was the very first question I got on the FE for the math section. And I was like, oh, I didn't review this question 4 times already. I got it now because that was one that I highlighted. I think you had like 4 or 5 examples and I highlighted each example and reviewed them. So when I got that question on the test, I knew exactly how to do it.
Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about. Is the circle with the line and tangent to the circle, and there are 4 different ways that question can be asked, and that's why I tried to cover all of them so you guys have
Yeah.
all the different ways to solve them, just in case if you get a different one on the exam, and that
Yeah.
one comes up a lot. It does, yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, awesome. Now, did you feel like your undergrad classes prepared you well for the FE exam?
I want to say yes and no, but only saying no because it wasn't really that the class did prepare me. I think it's just that I hadn't seen this stuff in so long that I just didn't remember how to do it because everything that I actually saw, I've seen in school. I've learned the material. It wasn't nothing that pretty much wasn't nothing I had never seen before. Like, oh my gosh, what is this? Every subject that was on the test, I learned it in school. So I can say yes, it did prepare me.
Okay, yeah. And I think it's also because, like you said, it's been a while. And also, if we don't use something, every day, we tend to forget it. And I think most engineering schools, they do pretty well in preparing us overall for the FE exam. But by the time we graduate, we work, we tend to
Mm-hmm.
forget those materials because we didn't really reinforce them. Now, I was hoping we could discuss some of your study techniques. Are there any study habits that you found not to be effective?
Yes. Just trying to watch videos. Initially, I was trying to watch the videos and see if I can understand it. And I was like, yeah, this is not working. I need to solve these problems. So I used your YouTube videos before I took your class, and I would watch your videos, and instead of trying to actually like watch it, stop it, solve it, I would just watch it through, and I wasn't really grasping the concepts. So that wasn't working for me. And also, just like the material I had with the Dropbox, so it's something that somebody's giving me, and because I'm not really understanding, I don't know where the errors are and if something's right or wrong. So I think that hurt me too, because it was questions. I used that material to study for the fourth attempt, and I was more so trying to memorize just how they did it, but I didn't understand it, so I wasn't able to apply it to different type of questions. So I think it's best to have somebody who can actually teach it to you if you're not strong with it than trying to just review, because if you don't have a good understanding, it's not going to help you, because you're not going to get those exact same problems. You're going to get problems with the same concept, and that's what you need to be able to understand.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Because if you, I mean, you can go to those problems and, try to memorize them. But if in the FE exam they tweak the question a little bit, you'll probably be stuck. You probably not know exactly what to do because you don't know the steps behind those solutions. You don't truly understand why the problem was solved that way. Whereas if somebody's walking you to the solution, explaining the problem, you tend to engage and start making connections more, and you start understanding the problem. Um, and in terms of watching the videos, I think that one is very common. Like I mentioned before, a lot of people will just watch videos. You actually have to try to solve the problems so that you can see where your mistakes, and that's how you will remember your mistakes for the FE exam. But if you just see someone watching the solution, you will never know what you would have done wrong, and this way you will
Yes.
never know your mistakes. Yeah.
Yes, that was one thing. So when I started your review class, especially for the math section, like, so when I took the class the exam the last time, I was like certain, like, oh, I got this many math problems right. I was so certain. And then when I got the breakdown, I'm like, I only got like, based on a little scale score, I'm like, I got half of them right. I thought it was only one I didn't know. But then when I took your review class, I was like, okay, I know why I didn't get them right. I wasn't even doing them right. I was using some material that I wasn't really understanding to try to learn it, and that wasn't the right way. So I was just doing it wrong from the very beginning. So that made a difference. It's like, okay, no, I need to understand how to do it, and that's what made the difference.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I actually get that a lot. So I have students who they would be like, I've tried everything, I've used all the books, the Dropbox, like I followed everything. I'm still like not passing this exam. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what I'm doing wrong. They enrolled in my class. 2 weeks later, I get a text from them saying like, oh my God, if I had this course, like I would have passed. Now I know
Yes.
what I did wrong. Now I know why I didn't pass the exam.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly that, like
Yeah.
being able to actually understand the problems and not just doing them. Yeah.
Yeah, when I first I found your course like early on with studying, like while your channel, and I kept seeing things about your course. But I'm one of the people who I don't like to spend money. I'm very frugal. So when I saw the cost of the course, I was like, I don't know, maybe let me just take it and see. Then when I didn't pass, I was like, I don't care how much the course costs. I need it. I'm going to pay for it. And then I paid for the review class. Then when I was like, I got the status, and I was like, I don't care how much I need it. Like at this point, I don't have anything to lose. I'm just going to keep failing. Why not invest the money in myself now? I'm going to make this money back and more as soon as I pass this test. So it's worth it.
Yeah, and then also just think about it. Like if you keep trying and taking the exam and failing it, I mean, you are paying the
Yes.
test center each time you fail it.
Yes, I actually added it up. I spent a total of $925 just to take the test, because I had taken it 5 times. The first time I took it, it was 225. Then they reduced it to 175, and I took it at the 175 price 4 times. So I paid for the course already at that point. So it's like I have no reason not to pay for it now.
Yeah, that's like more than how much my courses cost.
Yes,
And more.
exactly. I had
Wow.
already paid for it.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, and I think also it's also because time. So this is something a lot of people don't realize, that time is really money. Like
Hmm.
you can spend like a year, 2 years, eventually you're going to pass your FE exam. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. You use books or courses, but it's sometimes it's about like how fast you want to get there, right?
Yes.
Do you want to get there in 3 months, or do you want to get there in 2 years? And
Yes.
that's the question. And then also, like, when you get there in 2 years, I mean, you have done so much damage as well to that journey, in terms of, like, I mean, I'm saying failure is good. Failure gets us,
Yeah.
to success. Because we fail, we succeed. But sometimes if we fail a lot of times, I mean, that affects our confidence. We start doubting ourselves. I mean, there's like a whole like mental thing that goes with it. And I think this is why sometimes it's important to really like stop for a second and be like, what other people are doing? How can I get there faster? And it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. That's why you failed 5 times. It's just because there are not a lot of great materials out there that really help you and walk you through this exam. As you probably noticed, the exam itself is not hard. It's about...
I don't. I took your review class. I was like, oh, this test wasn't hard at all. I just didn't have the right material to study for it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, sometimes it's about being efficient and wise with your time, right? And being productive. And then also, it's not about just like passing this exam. I'm pretty sure now you have a good foundation in engineering. You understand it really well. You feel confident in your field, and this is going to help you with your next step, which is the PE. So
yes, I'm attempting to take the PE in October, but I don't think I'll make the deadline, because the last day to sign up for it is August 20th. And I have it, I submitted everything to my board, but they said you have to give them 6 to 8 weeks. So I don't think I'll get my certification back in time to register for the PE. So I'll be taking it in April of next year.
Yeah, and that's fine. You can take some time to just kind of go over the material and prepare it, so that way you don't stress yourself too much. Because it's very close. If you try to register now, it will be very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually good. Okay. Now, did you make any changes to your study habits or materials between the times you failed the exam versus the time you passed?
Yes. I basically threw away all the material that I had from the first time I took it, which was in 2017, which I just took it just to take it because they were about to change the format. So I was like, let me just see if I could pass it and get lucky. So I just kind of got rid of all that because they had changed the exam and the format had changed. So I feel like everything I did before that, it wasn't really going to help me because everything was different. So I kind of got rid of all the material and only got like stuff that was recent. I got the new practice exam. I got the Dropbox information, and I got your course, and then my study schedule. I didn't try to attack the whole subject. I changed it and tried to take each subject little by little, and then I approached it that way.
I see. Okay. So you got new material, and then you just changed how to plan your schedule, which really helped you with to stay consistent with your studying. Yeah. Now, was there anything specific that you did that helped you stay motivated while studying for the FE exam? Because I know you mentioned earlier that you stopped exercising. So was there anything that, kept you going?
My faith, really. Like I stopped studying, so I just like focused on God the whole time and studying, and that was it. And work. That's all I did. I knew, and it was just my own personal drive. My goal was to pass this test because I had something to prove to myself, that I didn't go to school 10 years to get a degree to not be able to use it because I can't pass a test. So it was more also personal, like I can do this because I know I have the ability. If I can get a degree in it, I can take this test and pass it. And then my family and friends, they kept me motivated. They called me if I was doing something. They were like, did you study today? They would make sure I was studying. If I was studying, they called. They were like, call me back later. They held me accountable. So that was another thing, having people to hold me accountable and like make sure I was studying. And if I was falling off, they would be like, hey, this is not, you got a goal in mind. You need to study today. And that's what was the big thing for me.
Wow, that's great. It's like they remind you of like, hey, remember, you really wanted to pass this exam. You
Yes,
gotta
that's what they
study.
did every day.
Wow, that's awesome. I think that's really great. That helps us sometimes, especially when we're feeling tired and overwhelmed. And it's like, after you take it 4 times, you're like, oh, I just want this to be over. And so, and especially when you're studying for long hours, sometimes you forget that you have that big goal. and having someone there to remind you, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, when I would take a break, I would call them, and then they'll talk to me loud. And they're like, "All right, you got to get back to studying now. Like you had long enough break. It's time to get back at it." So yeah.
That's great. Okay. Now let's explore a little bit the day before you took the FE exam. Were you feeling ready?
Yes, I felt ready. I felt like I had put in all the effort I could, study everything I can. Actually, I know from your videos you're saying like don't study, but the day before kind of relax. And that's not how I did it. I tried not to study the day before, but I still did just
Okay.
because you kept adding videos and I didn't. I like having things complete. I hate not seeing stuff complete. So I was like, oh, I got so many videos I haven't reviewed. So instead of actually trying to solve the problems, I think maybe that was 2 days before. I just went through and I reviewed every new video that you had to make sure I at least saw it. Like, well, not in every subject, mainly in mechanics, because you added a lot of videos in mechanics and materials. So, and I knew that section had like 7 or 8 questions, and I was like, this is a lot. So I made sure I reviewed all of those new videos at least. The ones in materials, I went through them and I looked like at the time, like if it had like a 15, I was like, yeah, that's gonna be too long. If it was like a minute or two, I would review those. But I tried to make sure I reviewed them at least so if I had a question, like, well, I saw it, so I know where to start or what to look for. So I did that. And actually, the night before the exam, I was thinking about the critical path. I remember seeing a video on that, and I was like, this might be on my test, but I wasn't certain because I hadn't been on the previous ones. So I watched the YouTube video the night before, and it ended up being on my test. So I'm happy I did it because that was on my test the next day. And that's pretty much it. I just I took it easy. I didn't really like solve problems. I just reviewed. And then I
Yeah.
stopped around maybe 7 or 8 o'clock, and I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to relax and just go to bed. But then I had a hard time falling asleep. So after I looked up the critical path, then I was like, okay, that's it. I need to go to bed.
That's funny. So you were sleeping and then you're like, wait, critical path.
Yeah, that's really what happened. I watched 2 YouTube videos on it. One of Gregory Michael's videos, because I used this stuff. I tried to early on, but it was kind of just too much talking, and it was just taking too long for me. So I kind of just didn't really use it. But he had a video. I remember he did a video on surveying, and at the end of it, he was like, "I'm going to review this one question on critical path." And I remember that one video, and that's the video I went back and reviewed. So
I see. Great. Okay. So you pretty much didn't learn anything new. You were just reviewing some of the videos, some of the problems you were going over 2 days before. And actually, a lot of my students, that's what they do. Like Jeff, that's what he did the day before exam. He just sat down in his couch because he was getting sick a little bit. He was getting the flu, and then he was just like watching, going over the course, and just not solving anything, but just going over the video. So
yeah, that's what I did. I went over the videos, and I also went over everything in the math section and statics. Everything that I had put a yellow highlighter by, I made sure that I at least looked at those questions. Not really the questions. I would go to the solution again and just be like, make sure you understand it, because I knew those were things that I had to do multiple times, and I just want to see them one more time. So I made sure I reviewed everything that had like a little yellow highlighter to say review again.
yeah, see, this is why organization is really important. And I talk about this in the course, and I tell you guys, organize your notes, highlight the ones you don't know. So this way you can review it the day before, because you don't want to go over your notes and be like, oh, wait, which questions I didn't get?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's too late by
Yeah.
then. Like it's going to take you hours to figure that out. So
Mm-hmm.
highlighting it and going over it is really important. Now, did you create any cheat sheets while you were studying?
Yes.
Okay.
I had got like just a plain sheet of 8.5 by 10, the plain printer paper, and I wrote at every subject. So I wrote like statics, wrote everything down I think I need to know, transportation, and I did that for each subject that I think I needed material for. I did write something down for dynamics, which actually came in handy. It was one of your videos you did where like they had to find the area under the curve, and I did that wrong on my previous exam, and I remembered solving it. And I wasn't really sure, but I wrote a note to tell me that this is what it meant, and then I had that test that on my test. So I knew, I had looked at that cheat sheet so many times. I just knew exactly how to solve those problems. So
I
yeah,
see.
I definitely had, I think I had 3 cheat sheets because I would like write one and then redo it and make sure it was neat. And then some more stuff come to mind and do another one. And I end up with 3 at the end.
Yeah, I think those cheat sheets really help kind of organize
Yes.
the notes and the important concepts that you should remember for your exam. Okay, now let's dive in the day of the exam. How were you feeling during the exam?
I felt okay. I had to take it at like a temporary testing center, so it was different than the centers I had been at before. And with everything COVID, everything was just completely different. Like the way you had to line up, the way you had to wait. This test center was different. They had to like put your stuff in a book bag and lock it up with like zip tie. It was just completely different from all my previous experience because they were in like a regular center, and this one was actually at the Pearson Center, and they had to like use different classrooms to accommodate everybody. It just was completely different. So that kind of had took me back a little bit because I was used to going to everything the same way, and then that was different. But other than that, I felt a little nervous, mainly because I was so concerned with running out of time because I always run out of time. And the last time I didn't even finish my exam because I ran out of time, and I was like, I gotta have a strategy no matter what. I'm gonna answer every question, even if I run out of time. I'm not gonna leave anything blank because I think I left about 6 to 10 questions blank last time, so I didn't even get to solve them. I just didn't. They were just blank. So
Yeah.
that's about it.
Okay. And then now did you track your time?
I did.
Okay.
So the first half, I had told myself going in that I was going to try to give myself 3 hours on the second part because I was like, I need more time. I need more time on the second part. So I started the exam and I went through it. And I saw everything that I knew I could solve like fast, 2 minutes or less, solve it pretty fast. Went through and solved all that. And I would flag everything that I was like, it's going to take me longer. So I went through and solved everything. I had 58 questions on the first part. And it kind of caught me off guard because on all my previous attempts, surveying was not on my first part. It was always on the second part. And surveying was on my first part. It was like, I think it had like a little survey and a little construction. I'm not sure, but it wasn't on any other one. So when I started seeing these questions, I'm like, wait, what's going on? This is not right. It's not supposed to be here. But I was like, okay, it's here. Let me just do my best. I know how to solve them. Just do them. So I got to the end. I had 23 questions flagged. Out of the 23 questions, I knew at least 15 of them I knew I could solve. I just didn't want to have to sit there and try to solve them. So I went back and then I solved everything that I knew I could solve, and then I left and I unflagged them and I left everything flagged that I needed to review again. And when I finished, I only had 4 questions that I hadn't solved, and I was like, I'm just gonna guess because I didn't want to use any more time. And I was at 3 hours. I looked at the clock and it said 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I was like, I really want to put most of my time on the second part. But I was like, but I know I can get these questions right. I'll give up the 30 minutes because I know I'm going to get these right. So I think I used a little bit over 3 hours on the first part. Like I think I had exactly 2 hours left on the second part. And I just gave it my all, and I only had 4 questions that I had to guess on.
Wow. Okay, so you only guess in 4 questions in the morning, and then for the
Yeah.
surveying part, because if you look at the new specifications now, the first material you get for the afternoon is actually surveying. So
Yeah,
it used to be the
I saw
last,
that.
they moved.
Yeah.
So like after fluid mechanics, the first thing you have is surveying.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually had a student who took her exam this week, and she said the same thing. She texted me. She's like, "Oh my God, I had surveying in the morning. What
Yeah.
happened?" I should have sent you guys an email, but yeah, I should probably do that. Send an email to my students. Just let them know, hey, you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get surveying. The first
Yeah.
thing, because you usually expect, what was it, like structural analysis? I think
Yes, I was expecting, yeah,
hydrology, maybe
hydraulics or
hydraulics.
soils. That's
Right?
what I expected first. And when I saw
Yeah.
surveying, I was just like, wait, this is not supposed to be here. So
Yeah, yeah. So that's yeah, that throws off people a little bit. But so you were able to do actually like you only guess on 4 questions, which is great. Now for the
mhm.
afternoon, how many questions did you guess?
Maybe 15. I
15?
had like 12 to 15 because I did the same thing, same. So what I did, I went through it. That's the afternoon session was the session I always never finished. So I went through it and solved everything. And then all the ones that I didn't know how to solve, I flagged them, but I just picked C for everyone. I was like, I'm not leaving it blank just in case I run out of time. So I just picked C. So when I finished, I think I had like 26 questions flat. So then I went back and I was actually go through and everything that needed to be solved, I could solve. It was the conceptual stuff that I had to kind of read out and guess and be like, okay, this is the best choice. And that's kind of eliminate the ones that didn't make sense. Because they had a lot of conceptual questions, way more than I was prepared for. I was like, where's all these questions? I didn't really study for conceptual stuff at all. I just kind of was like, I'll just go in there and guess because all the other times I didn't have that many, but I had a lot of conceptual questions.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Did you get a lot of conceptual questions in the morning or just the afternoon?
Mainly afternoon. I think I might have had 4 in the morning, but I had like they were all like back to back. I want to say I had almost 20 conceptual questions in the afternoon session.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I think Punita had a similar experience where I think she hit, I believe, transportation, and she was like, where's the vertical curve and the horizontal curve? But it was like mostly like she got conceptual
Yeah,
questions.
I didn't that was the thing. I was expecting like problems in transportation. I think I don't even remember having maybe 1 or 2, if that. I don't even really remember having many problems. I remember having like all conceptual, and construction was all conceptual. Only thing they had was like they had a question about float, and they had a question about the critical path. That was it. Everything was conceptual, and I
Wow.
had I had a lot of conceptual questions in soils as well. Uh, Way more than I thought. I think I had to solve maybe 3 soil problems, and the rest of it was conceptual.
Wow. Okay. And so for the afternoon, you said you spent 2 hours. Did you feel like that was enough?
I feel like maybe 15 minutes. I actually went over my break like by 6 minutes because they lost my bag, so that we were having a hard time trying to get me back in the exam. I tried to go back early enough for them to get me in time, but then they couldn't find my bag. So it ended up taking more time, and I lost like 6 minutes on my exam. But I was like, it is what it is. Like, I know I did excellent on the morning session, so I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. A lot of my students like they do really well in the morning session that like by the time they get to the afternoon, well, first of all, they have good energy because they did really well, and
Mm-hmm.
they feel more confident, and they just go like, I'm just gonna do my best. And a lot of them, they
Yeah.
get between 10, 15, and they don't worry about it because they already did really well in the morning.
Yeah. And I knew like all the questions that I had in the afternoon session that were like mainly like problems. I knew I could solve them, and I knew I solved them right. So I was like, the ones I did solve, I knew how to solve. I know they're right. So these other ones, I got a 25% chance on getting them right, and I just kept it as C to make so it's just keep it the same chances all the way through, and that's what I did.
Yeah, I think the C thing works. I mean, you can pick any letter, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But like, sticking to one letter, I think that usually works. I've had a lot of
Yeah.
students do that and they pass. So I think there's something there. Yeah. Okay. Now, were you feeling confident when you finished the exam?
Yes, initially I was.
Okay.
And then like only reason was that I was like, man, those just conceptual questions, and I didn't really study for them. So some of them I was like, it was easy to like guess and get them right because I was like, well, I learned this material, I've seen stuff. Oh, I know how to do that. But some of them I had absolutely no idea what
Mhm.
they were even talking about. So I just guessed, and I was just like, I hope that didn't ruin my chances. Like I knew I did well on the first part, but I knew I needed to do well. I still need to do decent on the second part to get to pass. So I was worried about that. But then like the next maybe 2 days later, I started thinking about the questions like, oh, what if I did this wrong? I'm like, it's done. I can't change it. Just wait till I get my results next week, and I just left it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times you just gotta like unwind, stop thinking about it, and just wait. because you can't do
Yeah.
anything about it. Yeah, but that happens. Like it happened to me as well. Like the next 2 or 3 days, I'm like, oh my god, I got that question. Did I did it right? And then I would write the whole thing, and I'm like, oof, what did I do? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that happens to a lot of people. Are there any areas that were particularly difficult that you wish you would have studied more?
Soils, the conceptual questions. So I think that was like the only thing that I thought I felt like I needed to study. Everything else I pretty much felt good about.
Okay. Are there any topics that were easier than you expected?
Surveying. I only had to stop 2 questions, and the rest of them were conceptual, but they were like basic things. If you just pay attention, they were easy.
Yeah.
That was easy, and actually,
Mhm.
I found statics to be easy.
Oh,
Because
look
I
at
knew how to solve them all. I was like, oh, I know how to do that, and dynamics. Because I had a dynamics question that I had solved, and then I had another one that was very similar right after it. And
oh,
then I solved the second one. I was like, oh wait, I needed to add both of them up together, and I went back and both of the answers that I needed, I got. Well, both answers was on the test, but one was wrong. If you saw it the wrong way, then one. And I was like, go back, look at it, and I was like, then I got the right answer. I was like, I'm happy. I knew how to identify the concepts because I was able to. If I wouldn't have saw the second problem and it was exactly the same, probably would have just missed it. But when I saw it again, I was like, oh wait, I did something wrong. So yeah, statics, dynamics, and surveying was actually. I expected statics to be like challenging for me, and that was the easiest one.
yeah,
That
I'm
was
really
surveying.
surprised because I
Yeah.
remember you told me that before when we talked. You were like, you struggled with statics,
Mm-hmm.
you were scared of it, and then you also told me about the score. It never moved. It was
Yeah,
always.
it's always the same. So yeah, like because it was every status question I had was what we went over. It was centroid. It was uh moment of an wasn't a moment of inertia. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was like all and it was like an equilibrium. One of them was so simple. I thought it was a joke. They were like, what's the force in member AB? It was stuff that was almost like I thought uh, it was trying to like get me caught up because it was that easy.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's what happens when you know too much about the subject. But that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, lastly, I was hoping we could talk about your life after passing the FE exam. Did passing the FE impact your professional life?
It impacted it greatly, actually. So I quit my previous job, the job I had in Texas, and I moved back home. And I'm actually going back to the company that I left before I took that job. But I could take the job without the FE, but it just would be like a lot less money and a different. And I had like 2 years to get it. But now that I have it, I can go in at a higher pay, a higher position, and I actually called to tell everybody that I passed, and like everybody's like, "Oh, I got this job, I got that job." So it opened up a lot more opportunities for me. So I actually have options now.
Wow. Great. Look at you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
Congratulations. Did you
Yeah.
pick yet what you're gonna do, or are you still thinking about it?
No, I want to work in. I'm going to do traffic. I really enjoy traffic engineering. I think that's where my passion is.
Okay.
I like traffic a lot, so that's what I want to do. Yeah.
Great.
That's what I
Awesome.
want.
Okay. Now, do you feel any different now that you passed your FE?
I feel like a weight is lifted. I'm like still happy. Still, it's like what 3 days later, 4 days later, I'm still like excited about it and happy. The day I passed was just like amazing. Like I was like, I knew I was getting my results and I was going to pass. So like I did my hair the night before and planned out my clothes. Was going to have like a brunch with my friend. We were celebrating. We decided we were celebrating already. So I just knew I was going to celebrate. So the day after was amazing when I got my results. And then even like days later, I'll think about it and I'll just be like, I passed my test. Like, it still feels surreal.
Wow, that's awesome. Like nobody can piss you off right now because no
Nope.
matter what
Like,
happens,
yeah,
you passed. That's
yes.
funny. Are you still like smiling all the time? Because you
Yes.
texted me, you're like, I'm still smiling like a
Yeah.
day later.
Yeah, I'll like think about it and I'll just start smiling because it's like I know I did it and I know like the challenge it was for me. And then, I mean, I've been out of school. I graduated 2 years ago, so it's been 12 years since I actually started college. and I just actually passed it. So yeah, it's a big accomplishment for me.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think you did great. Are you planning on taking the PE? I know you mentioned this before. You said that you were gonna take the PE on April, and then also you have the course. You have a lifetime access, so you can always go back and review those problems. So you're gonna take it on April?
Yeah, I'm going to try to take it for April next year, and actually, I'll have my years, because I know you have to. Well, here you don't have to wait the 4 years to take it. You can take it as soon as you can, as soon as you have your FE, and you just have to work it 4 years. But I had reached out like a year ago or 2 years ago, right after I graduated, to like the lapels board here, and you can count a year, up to a year of intern as a year towards your PE. So I only have, I'll be able to get my PE license in May of next year because I have my time.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome. Okay. Now, do you have any closing remarks for engineers who are trying to pass the FE exam?
Yes. Main thing is stick with it. You can do it. I was in school 10 years to get an undergrad degree, and 12 years after I actually started school, I actually took my test and passed it. So stick with it. Don't give up on yourself. But be honest with yourself. Like, don't lie to yourself saying that you're going to study when you know you're not, or you're going to be able to pass when you know you didn't put in the work. Be honest and real with yourself, and know that if you stay true to yourself, that you can do it. And also, I would really recommend that they take your course. I tell everybody when I passed, I text all my classmates who've been struggling. I was like, you got to take a class. Like, this is why I passed. And so take your course. You are great at teaching. Everybody can't teach, and that plays a big part in how you learn and grasp the material. And I think that the way that you broke it down to me was great. I mean, I didn't really understand statics at all, and as soon as I took your course, I found that to be the easiest subject on the test. So I think that plays a part. So yeah, believe in yourself, never give up, and if I can do it, you can too. So yeah, that's it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Juanica. Thank you for being with us here today and for sharing your FE experience. It was really great. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Juanica shared some great insights with us. So if you are struggling with your FE exam, you might try to implement some of her study habits. So for example, you might look into your study materials. Are you using the right material that's going to actually prepare you for the FE exam? Another thing is, how are you learning the information? Are you just sitting and watching the videos, or are you actually trying to attempt the problems and make connections between the problems, because that's how you will learn. And then another thing she mentioned is organization. Organizing your notes from the beginning, it's really important, and highlighting the problems that you're struggling with. So this way, right before your FE exam, you can always go and review your notes and review the problems that you missed when you were studying. So this way you will remember it for your test. Now, if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for new videos. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck with your studying, and I will see you soon. À la prochaine.